Island money, huh? Richard Coleman's voice cuts through the hum of the bank, sharp and soaked in smugness. The marble lobby gleams under fluorescent light, but every sound, typing, murmuring, shuffling, falls silent as he flicks his silver lighter open. The flame reflects against the glass doors behind him, small and steady, like a stage spotlight. Let's see if it burns like the real thing. The $3.1 million check ignites instantly, orange swallowing cream paper, smoke curling like ink across air-conditioned stillness. Coleman raises it high, savoring the spectacle. Then slowly, deliberately, he lets it fall. The burning paper drifts downward, landing just inches from Abena Morrison's sandals. Guess. Phones. Murmurs. Is he really burning it? She should have known better. She's trying to scam him. The flames shrink to glowing threads before fading into ash. Abena doesn't move. Her expression remains calm, unreadable, unbothered, yet impossibly composed. Her smartwatch vibrates softly against her wrist. 1:55 p.m., board meeting reminder. Around her, chaos brews. Phones rise higher. Lenses focus. Someone whispers, "This is going viral." Another laughs. Coleman basks in it all, straightening his tie like a man who believes humiliation is customer service. He grinds his Italian leather shoe into the ashes. Problem solved, he announces to no one and everyone. A teenager near the counter giggles, whispering into her phone camera, "Toronto's got a new savage manager. Fire beats fraud." The live chat scrolls with laughing emojis and mock applause. Abena's gaze never shifts. Her voice, when it finally comes, is low but steady, carrying the rhythm of Kingston in every syllable. "Are you finished?" Coleman smirks. "That depends. You ready to admit this is a fake check?" The scent of charred paper and arrogance thickens the air. The security guard, uneasy but unsure, lingers near the velvet queue rope. Coleman waves him off with a casual flick of the wrist. "Relax," he says. "We handle this kind of fraud ourselves here." His assistant, Clara Hughes, steps forward timidly. "Richard, maybe we should wait for verification." "Quiet, Clara. You've got a lot to learn about instincts." He snatches the ID Abena extends toward him, flipping it theatrically. "Forged? Definitely. Look at this, laminated. Outdated photo. These people never learn." He pockets the card before she can speak. Abena doesn't argue. She simply folds her hands in front of her purse. Her calm begins to unnerve the crowd. Someone mutters, "Why is she so calm?" Another whispers, "She's hiding something." Coleman leans closer, voice dripping with mock sympathy. "You walk in here dressed like that, talking with that accent, holding a check worth more than most people's homes? You really expected me to believe it's real?" No answer. Just silence. He circles her like a self-appointed hero, the faint smile of righteousness fixed to his face. "You think this is Jamaica, lady? This is Toronto. We don't play those games here." Behind him, phones keep recording. Abena watches each reflection in the polished marble, each glowing screen capturing his downfall in real time. She finally speaks again, her tone as soft as it is surgical. "You just burned more than paper, Mr. Coleman." He laughs, the kind that bounces off walls and feeds on its own echo. "You think threats will help? I already called head office." "Good," she says. "They'll want to see this themselves." The digital clock above the teller desk flashes 1:45 p.m. 10 minutes until her next meeting, one Coleman will never forget. Welcome to Tales of an Observer, where truth, dignity, and courage meet in the stories we can't afford to forget. Now, before we get deep into the story, I'd love to ask a small favor. Please hit that subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment telling me the city you're watching from around the world. And don't forget, share this story with your loved ones. Now, let's get back into the story and see what unfolds. As Coleman revels in his brief moment of viral glory, Abena's eyes flicker toward her smartwatch. 9 minutes left. She exhales slowly, her calm a shield against the growing storm of laughter and flashing phones. Because in 9 minutes, the truth will arrive, broadcast to the same crowd that's laughing now. And the man who burned her check will soon discover that the fire he lit wasn't his to control. A young man in a varsity jacket stands near the teller line, his phone lifted high. "Yo, this is insane," he whispers into the camera, grin widening. Bank manager straight up torched a $3 million check. Hashtag island money, people. Hashtag bank burns check. Within seconds, the live stream takes off. Screens glow across the lobby like a constellation of voyeurism. The digital counter in the top corner of his phone jumps. 30 viewers, 60, then 200. Comments start scrolling faster than he can read. "She tried to scam him." "That's racist, bro." "Nah, manager's doing his job." "Island money." Coleman adjusts his tie, pretending not to notice the cameras even as he angles himself toward the best lighting. His smirk grows confident, hungry. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announces, voice loud enough to command the marble echoes, "what you've just witnessed is how we protect honest Canadians from fraud." A few customers nod. Some clap lightly, uncertain but eager to belong to whatever performance this is. Beside him, assistant manager Clara Hughes stands rigid, her eyes darting between the ashes and Abena's expression. She's pale beneath her light foundation. "Richard," she murmurs, "maybe we should. What if?" He waves her off. "Don't start with what ifs. You saw that chick. Fake signature, no watermark, and a story about some Caribbean company? Classic scam." Clara hesitates, lowering her voice. Still, burning it might not have been the right protocol. Coleman's laughter fills the room. "Protocol? Clara, this is instinct. You can't train instinct." Behind him, a teenage girl with pink braids zooms in on Abena's face. "She looks calm," the girl whispers to her phone. "Like she's planning something." The live stream comments agree. Why is she not crying? Maybe she knows it's fake. Maybe she knows it's not. Abena remains still. Her mind hums quietly, filtering voices the way she used to tune out thunder as a child in Montego Bay. "Never answer noise with noise," her grandmother used to say. "When the wind rages, hold still and it will pass." She watches Coleman swagger toward the security guards. 2 men in dark uniforms stand near the main door, uncertain whether they're watching a crime or a training video. "Good work, Mr. Coleman," one guard says, trying to sound professional. "Should we call law enforcement?" Coleman puffs his chest. "Already done. Fraud suspect, destroyed evidence, possible stolen ID." He glances at Abena, letting the word suspect hang in the air like a taunt. "She's lucky I caught her before she conned someone real." A ripple of laughter spreads through the crowd. Someone mutters, "Guess she won't be cashing that one." Abena closes her eyes briefly. She can still smell the smoke in her hair, faint but acrid. Her smartwatch screen lights up again, a discreet notification flashing. Board login link, Morrison Global Holdings. 1:55 p.m. conference begins. The irony makes her almost smile. The same hand that held a check Coleman called fake is the same hand controlling the login key to his entire future. She exhales slowly, her gaze sweeping the room. The faces blur into a collage of spectators, some curious, others cruel. Near the mortgage desk, an elderly man whispers to his wife, "People like that ruin the system. They make us look soft." The woman nods. "Well, he's doing what needs to be done." But not everyone agrees. A middle-aged black woman near the ATM shakes her head in disbelief. "That's not right," she says loudly. You can't just burn someone's check because of how they look. Her words hang awkwardly in the air. A few people glance her way but stay silent. Coleman shoots her a tight, dismissive smile. Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but we're keeping this institution safe. Abena's calm gaze drifts toward him again, and for a brief moment, their eyes lock. Hers, steady and knowing. His, confident but beginning to crack. He clears his throat and turns to the live-streaming teenager. Make sure you're filming the part where I explain the process, he says, voice dripping with self-importance. This is what defending integrity looks like. Canadian banking at its finest. The teen nods, trying not to laugh. Yeah, sure thing, hero. Clara steps closer to Abena, voice trembling. Miss, maybe if you just tell us where the check came from. Abena tilts her head, her tone measured. Would it matter? Clara hesitates. Of course it would. Would it matter, Abena repeats softly, if the same check came from a man in a suit instead of a woman with an accent? Clara's face reddens. She glances toward Coleman, who's now posing near the ash pile for a thumbnail photo someone insists on taking. The security guard looks uncomfortable. Mr. Coleman, maybe we should wrap this up? Coleman raises a hand. Absolutely not. This is a learning moment. Everyone needs to see what happens when you try to bring fake island money into a real institution. Abena flinches, not visibly, but deep enough that it feels like a tide turning under her ribs. Fake island money. The words echo against memories of her first week in Canada, landlords dismissing her voice, investors doubting her signature, the clerk who once told her, "You people must be good at hustling." She stands taller. The weight of humiliation is heavy, but she's carried heavier things. The clock above the teller desk clicks to 1:49 p.m. 6 minutes left. The live stream numbers climb, 1,800 viewers now. Commenters split into digital camps. Manager is a legend. He's racist trash. This lady's face, though, so calm. She's up to something. Coleman scrolls through the feed on his own phone, pretending to check evidence. The corner of his mouth twitches with satisfaction. We're trending, he says to no one in particular. That's what transparency looks like. Clara's voice breaks the tension. Richard, please stop. This isn't transparency, it's cruelty. He ignores her, turning instead to Abena. You see, miss, this is how we keep people honest. Maybe next time, you'll think twice before walking into my branch with forged documents. Abena studies him as though he's an equation, predictable, self-solving, tragic. Her smartwatch buzzes again. 1:50 p.m. 5 minutes left. She lifts her wrist slightly, the display bright in the sterile light. Morrison Global Holdings, secure board login active. She taps the screen once, entering her passcode beneath the counter, unseen. Coleman is still talking, his voice rising with each self-congratulatory word. They'll probably promote me for this. Maybe a commendation from the regional director. Fraud prevention's never been this visual. The laughter from a few customers fuels him. He gestures toward the ashes. You all witnessed it, real vigilance. You can't teach that. Abena finally looks up at him, her tone cutting through the noise like a quiet chord in a storm. Mr. Coleman. He pauses mid-gesture, sensing something shift in the air. Her voice remains soft but layered with steel. I suggest you stop talking now. The crowd hushes. Even the phones lower for a breath. Coleman laughs nervously. Or what? Abena doesn't answer. She simply holds his gaze, steady, silent, impenetrable. The kind of look that doesn't need volume to command a room. Outside, the sunlight glances through the glass doors, glimmering on the marble like water. 5 minutes left. And the tide is about to turn. The clock above the teller desk clicks quietly toward 1:51 p.m. The tension in the lobby feels thick enough to touch. Coleman keeps pacing in front of Abena, his voice booming with false authority, his pride swelling with every approving nod from the crowd. Abena doesn't hear him anymore. His voice has become a background hum, like the buzz of mosquitoes on a humid Kingston night. Her thoughts drift somewhere far warmer, far older. The marble floor fades into sand, and the smell of burned paper becomes the memory of sea salt and wet hibiscus. Back in Montego Bay, Jamaica, 1989. Abena is 9 years old, sitting cross-legged beside her grandmother, Mama Essie, in the front yard. The air smells of coconut oil and wood smoke. Mama Essie is plaiting Abena's hair, her fingers moving with patient rhythm. When the girl frowns about a classmate calling her poor island girl, Mama Essie only chuckles softly. "Never answer fire with fire, child," she says, tying the end of the braid with bright red thread. "Water wins in the end." Abena looks up, puzzled. Water. Water cools, water shapes, water lasts. You see, people who burn things, anger, hate, pride, they finish fast. But water. She gestures toward the sea beyond the palm trees. It's patient. It wears mountains down. That night, Abena writes the words in her little green notebook. Water wins in the end. She doesn't know yet how many times she'll need to remember them. Kingston, 2001. Years later, Abena stands outside a narrow office building, clutching her newly earned accounting certificate and a letter of rejection in the same hand. The city hums with buses, vendors, and the ache of ambition. She's 24, hopeful and tired. Inside that building, she had just been told, again, that her accent might be a little strong for corporate clients. She'd smiled politely, thanked them for their time, and walked out into the heat. That evening, she set up a desk in her living room and wrote a new name on a sheet of paper, Morrison Consultancy. It started with one client, then two. By her 30th birthday, she was managing accounts across 3 islands. By 35, she'd formed Morrison Global Holdings, an umbrella corporation expanding into logistics, renewable energy, and banking. She learned the art of patience. Where others shouted, she listened. Where others struck, she studied. She learned that stillness disarms louder enemies. And she never once forgot her grandmother's voice. Toronto, 2023. When her company began acquiring stakes in North American banks, Abena insisted on handling the negotiations herself. Quietly. No press, no headlines, no grand speeches. Northern First Bank had been her most recent and most significant acquisition. It had taken 9 months of strategic partnership discussions and silent mergers before her ownership reached 76%. Not one staff member in the local branches knew who the real chairwoman was. She preferred it that way. After the acquisition, she told her board something that confused them at first. Before we can reform a culture, we have to see it unguarded. I want to see how our employees treat the people they underestimate. And so, she made a habit of visiting branches alone, dressed casually, no entourage, no title, just a woman with an accent and a quiet smile. Today was supposed to be just another test. She never expected the test to ignite, literally. The present surges back like the tide returning to shore. The scent of burnt paper sharpens again. The marble floor is back beneath her sandals. Coleman's voice resurfaces, arrogant and unrelenting. "Security," he says loudly, "you may want to prepare to detain this woman until law enforcement arrives. She's trespassing on private banking property after a suspected fraud attempt." The security guard hesitates, glancing at Abena. "Sir, are you sure? Do I look unsure?" Coleman snaps. She's refusing to cooperate. Abena's smartwatch vibrates again, 1:52 p.m. 3 minutes left. The meeting with the board has already opened on her tablet, now quietly streaming from her purse. Somewhere across the world, 10 executives are wondering why their chairwoman hasn't joined the call. She keeps her composure. "Mr. Coleman," she says evenly, "you should be very certain of your next move." He smirks, mistaking her calm for fear. "Oh, I'm certain." The crowd stirs again. A man in a navy suit shakes his head. "She should have just admitted it was fake. Look how calm she is, that's guilt." But others are beginning to feel uneasy. The assistant manager, Clara, bites her lip, whispering to the nearest teller, "Something's off about this. She's too composed." Coleman doesn't notice. He's caught up in the performance, the way his words echo off the marble, the thrill of being watched. "This is why you trust experience," he tells the security guard, voice loud and performative. "Some people think you can't tell who's legitimate anymore. I say, just look." Abena studies him quietly. Every word, every exaggerated gesture, every cruel laugh, they're all recorded. She can see the cameras in reflection on the polished counter. Each phone capturing evidence, each second marking his descent. The guard finally steps closer. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stay where you are until the police arrive." Abena tilts her head slightly. "And if I don't?" He hesitates. "Then we'll have to detain you." Coleman crosses his arms. "You heard him." She sighs softly, more disappointed than frightened. Her pulse doesn't even quicken. "I'm not going anywhere," she replies. He laughs. "Good. Makes it easier for everyone." The live comments on the nearest phone keep scrolling. "This is getting intense." "She's not scared at all." "Why is she smiling?" And she is smiling, barely, but enough to unsettle the crowd. Flashback, 1 year earlier. A boardroom in Miami glows with the late afternoon sun. Abena sits at the head of a long mahogany table, executives from multiple banks studying quarterly reports. A Canadian banker, tall, polished, and patronizing, leans forward. "Ms. Morrison," he says, "I understand your passion for cultural inclusion, but let's be realistic. Diversity doesn't always align with profit." Abena closes her folder. Her tone is gentle, but every syllable lands with precision. If you think diversity is a charity initiative, you've already misunderstood profit. 3 months later, her company bought his. Coleman is still talking, explaining to the crowd how foreign scams work, waving his hands like a TV presenter. Abena hears none of it. Her mind is calculating every movement, every timestamp, every recording angle. She knows the live stream audience has multiplied since the moment he lit the match. 1:54 p.m. 1 minute. The light from the tall windows spills over her, warm against the cold interior. It feels like the Caribbean sun sneaking through winter glass. For the first time since walking in, she speaks not to Coleman, but to the crowd. "Do you all know what happens when you let arrogance set the rules?" she asks softly. No one answers. Even Coleman goes silent for a heartbeat, surprised by her voice. She steps forward, just one measured step, her sandals soundless on the marble. You get smoke. You get ashes. And you convince yourself that burning something makes you powerful. Coleman blinks, thrown off balance. "I don't know what game you're playing." Abena turns slightly toward one of the phones being held inches from her face. Her tone is calm, her eyes steady on the lens. "Keep filming," she says. "You'll want to remember this moment." The camera wobbles as the teenager behind it inhales sharply. The live stream comment feed explodes. What's she planning? She's not scared at all. This just flipped. Coleman forces a laugh. "Oh, please. You think you can intimidate me?" But there's something different in the air now. A subtle shift, a gravity he can't quite place. The digital clock clicks over to 1:55 p.m. Somewhere behind her purse flap, The Morrison Global Holdings board meeting continues. And as her tablet connects to the bank's internal network, the first notification begins to appear on screens across headquarters. Incoming message: Chairwoman Abena Morrison, Northern First Bank, Canada. Abena doesn't move. She just keeps her eyes on the camera, the faintest hint of a smile returning. Water wins in the end. The moment feels suspended, like the air itself is waiting to see what Abena will do next. Coleman stands with his arms crossed, pride swelling, while the crowd murmurs and shifts. The smell of smoke still lingers faintly, and the heap of ashes at Abena's feet looks more like a quiet warning than a victory. Then the glass doors at the front of the bank swing open. A woman in a tailored navy suit strides in, her heels clicking like punctuation marks against the marble. Her sleek tablet bag hangs across her shoulder, and a Bluetooth headset blinks in her ear. Layla Pierre, Abena's executive assistant. Her expression is tense, her voice low but firm as she speaks into her mic. Yes, I'm at the branch now. I see her. Heads turn. Phones lift again. Someone whispers, "Who's that?" Layla's eyes find Abena immediately. For a heartbeat, her corporate composure falters. Relief and alarm flash across her face. She's seen the live stream, the trending tags, the humiliation, the burned check. "Ms. Morrison," she blurts, hurrying toward her. Coleman steps into her path. "Hold it right there, sir. We're handling a fraud case." Layla's sharp brown eyes cut to him. "I what?" Coleman's tone drips with self-importance. "This woman attempted to cash a counterfeit check. We've contained the situation." Layla's voice hardens. "You've what?" Abena lifts one hand gently. "It's all right, Layla. I just need my tablet." Coleman scoffs. "Excuse me? You're not calling anyone. You can save the act for the police." Layla looks ready to explode, but Abena's calm stops her. "Please, my tablet," Abena repeats quietly. Layla hesitates, then reaches into her bag and pulls it out, a slim, white device with the Morrison Global Holdings logo embossed on the cover. As she passes it to Abena, the crowd shifts again, curiosity overtaking amusement. "Wait, did she just say Ms. Morrison?" a woman whispers. "Who's she supposed to be?" another asks. Coleman waves a dismissive hand. "Probably her accomplice. They all have one. Don't worry, this is getting documented." The live stream camera count jumps. 1,200 viewers and climbing. The comment thread is no longer filled with laughter. It's full of question marks, screenshots, and snippets of speculation. "She's too calm for a scammer." "Who's the new lady? Looks like a lawyer." "Wait, Morrison Global? Isn't that the company that just bought the bank?" Abena looks down at her smartwatch. 1:55 p.m. Right on schedule. She kneels briefly, brushing a few blackened fragments of her check into a neat pile. The motion is delicate, almost ceremonial. Then she opens her purse, takes out a single white business card, and places it gently beside the ashes. The crowd leans forward. Even Coleman squints, his arrogance flickering with uncertainty. "What's this supposed to be?" he sneers. "Some cheap print job from a street vendor?" He picks it up carelessly, flicks it once between his fingers, and reads aloud, mocking, confident. "Abena Morrison, Chairwoman and Chief Executive Officer, Morrison Global Holdings. Parent Company, Northern First Bank." Laughter bursts from a few spectators. Coleman grins. "Oh, that's rich. You actually printed fake business cards? Impressive dedication." Abena doesn't reply. She simply unlocks her tablet with a smooth swipe of her thumb. The MGH logo flashes across the screen, followed by a secure login prompt. Her fingers move with practiced precision. Username, password, biometric scan, complete. She tilts the screen so the crowd can see the company's executive portal. Lines of crisp blue text glow beneath the heading. Morrison Global Holdings, Board of Directors Chairwoman and Chief Executive Officer, Abena Morrison Ownership Stake, 76%, Northern First Bank, Canada. The silence that follows is not the stunned pause of confusion, it's the collective inhale of realization. Layla steps closer, her voice steady but vibrating with restrained anger. You just burned the quarterly dividend check of your own employer, Mr. Coleman. A gasp ripples through the room like the snap of a flag in wind. Coleman stares at the screen, his face draining of color. This can't be real. Abena finally looks up at him, her voice calm, almost gentle. Oh, but it is. The phones zoom in, the chat feed explodes. Wait, she OWs the bank? That manager is done. Plot twist of the century. Hashtag Island Money is trending again. Coleman's jaw works soundlessly. His earlier swagger collapses into stammering disbelief. That's not possible. I would have known. They would have told us if... Layla cuts him off sharply. You would have known if you listened instead of assuming. The assistant manager, Clara, takes a shaky step forward, her eyes wide. Oh my God, she whispers. Mr. Coleman, she's on the company's executive page. She's really the CEO. Abena doesn't move. She lets the realization settle, like a tide swallowing footprints. Coleman tries to recover, reaching for the last scraps of his authority. This must be some elaborate prank. There's no way she... Layla's tone turns icy. You can confirm it with head office. They're on that tablet right now. Coleman's eyes flicker toward the device again. On its screen, small live thumbnails show the faces of global board members, executives from London, New York, Kingston, each one watching the same feed. They can see him. They can see everything. One of the board members speaks through the device speaker, his accent crisp and disbelieving. Ms. Morrison, we've been watching. Is that the Toronto branch manager? Abena nods slowly. It is. Coleman steps back as if struck. His confidence fractures audibly in the silence that follows. The crowd murmurs, uncertain whether to film or flee. A woman near the front whispers, he burned his boss's check. Another voice answers, he burned his job. Abena glances down at the ashes beside her white business card. Her voice carries quietly through the marble hall. You told me my money wasn't real, Mr. Coleman. You were wrong. But what you've truly lost here isn't money. She turns the tablet so that its glow falls across the ashes. It's respect. Coleman stumbles for words. I didn't know. That's exactly the problem, Layla interjects. You didn't care to know. Abena raises a hand slightly, silencing them both. Enough. There's no need for anger. The world's already watching, and they'll decide what this moment means. The cameras flash. The live stream viewer count surges past 3,000. Coleman's arrogance collapses completely. His face, once smug, is now gray and slack. He looks down at the burned fragments on the floor, realizing too late that his greatest victory has turned into his public undoing. Abena's smartwatch pings again, 1:57 p.m. She lifts her wrist to silence it, then addresses the camera nearest her. This, she says softly, is what happens when prejudice is mistaken for professionalism. For a second, no one breathes. Even the air seems to hold its breath. Then the feed explodes with reactions. She owns the bank. He's finished. That calm though. Coleman staggers backward. I didn't mean, I was just. Abena cuts him off without raising her voice. You were just proving exactly why I came here. The color drains from his face. He knows what she means now. the reason behind her casual dress, her quiet demeanor, her patient silence. The trap had never been set by her check. It was built by his arrogance. Layla steps beside Abena, her voice quiet but firm. The board is asking if you'd like them to stay connected, Chairwoman. Abena nods once. Yes. They should see this through. The light from the tablet glows brighter, the corporate insignia rotating softly in the corner of the screen. Abena turns back to the stunned crowd, her words deliberate. You all came here for a transaction, and you got one. You've just witnessed the exchange rate between dignity and ignorance. A hush falls so heavy that the sound of someone's phone hitting the floor echoes like a bell. Coleman opens his mouth again, but no sound comes out. The veins at his temple pulse visibly. The reality of the situation sinks in. The cameras, the evidence, the hierarchy that has flipped upside down in front of him. Abena closes her purse with a soft click, her tone composed, final. We're not finished, Mr. Coleman. But for now. She gestures toward the pile of ashes. You might want to start cleaning that up. The line lands like a quiet gavel. Layla turns off her mic and exhales. The board connection ends. The crowd stands frozen between disbelief and awe. As Abena and Layla exchange a silent glance, a single line from Abena's grandmother drifts through her mind again. Clear, steady, victorious. Water wins in the end. The silence that follows is the loudest sound of all. For the first time since Richard Coleman lit that match, the marble lobby stands frozen. Every phone held still, every whisper trapped in the air like dust. The ash pile between them seems to smolder again, but it's only the heat of collective disbelief. The live stream counter in the corner of one teenager's phone jumps past 3,000 viewers. Comments stream like wildfire, filling the feed faster than anyone can read. She owns the bank. Gee. He burned his boss's check. This is the most satisfying plot twist ever. Hashtag island money forever. Abena doesn't react to the chaos. She's calm in the center of it, still, poised, grounded. Her smartwatch flashes another notification. Conference paused, awaiting chairwoman input. She taps once to silence it, then lifts her tablet again. The Morrison Global Holdings logo glows faintly against the glass. Her voice, quiet but resonant, carries through the hushed room. Since there seems to be confusion, she begins, allow me to clarify who I am. Her tone isn't defensive, it's deliberate. A woman reclaiming her narrative. She taps the screen, and a secure file opens. Executive Compensation Statement, Q2 Dividend Disbursement. This, she says, turning the tablet toward the nearest onlookers, is the document authorizing my quarterly dividend. $3.1 million, drawn directly from Morrison Global Holdings' Canadian subsidiary, this bank. Gasps ripple through the room. The words on the tablet are unmistakable: official headers, encrypted signatures, and time-stamped digital seals bearing the Northern First Bank emblem. Coleman blinks, then forces out a laugh that sounds more like choking. That's clever. You really think I'm going to fall for some photoshopped document on a tablet? Abena meets his gaze, unflinching. I don't need you to fall for anything. I just need you to look. She gestures for one of the security guards to step forward. You, she says softly. Would you like to verify this? The guard hesitates, then steps closer. His eyes skim the tablet, scanning the encrypted data, the digital watermark shifting under the light. His brows furrow. This looks real, he murmurs. It is real, Layla adds sharply. Coleman snaps, his voice rising to a desperate pitch. No, this is some kind of cyber scam. Deep fake documents, maybe. We've all seen this. Identity theft, stolen logins, fabricated signatures. Abena interrupts him without raising her voice. Richard. He stops. There's something about the way she says his name, like a parent addressing a child after too many chances. She turns the tablet outward so everyone can see. The display mirrors across nearby screens, corporate filings, transaction IDs, verification codes. Every field is authenticated, every number verifiable. Do you recognize these, Mr. Coleman? She asks, pointing to the logo at the top. That's your bank's digital signature. Your compliance department approved it. Coleman's throat works visibly as he tries to find words. The crowd starts murmuring again, low at first, then louder. Those are real documents. She's really the owner. He actually burned her check. Abena doesn't look away from him. You've spent the last 15 minutes broadcasting your confidence, she says quietly. Now the world can see your ignorance. The live stream comment feed explodes again. He's finished. This is history being made live. She's so calm it's terrifying. Behind the counter, Clara Hughes covers her mouth with one trembling hand. Her eyes are red, her mascara beginning to smudge. Oh my God, she whispers. He didn't just insult her, he destroyed her property. He burned her check. She looks at Abena, then at Coleman, her voice cracking. Richard, you burned Arceau's check. He doesn't answer. His shoulders slump slightly, the weight of humiliation starting to settle where arrogance used to live. Abena tilts her head. You've burned your employer's money, Richard, she says gently. But worse, you've burned your decency. Her words land like stone on still water. The ripples spread through every corner of the room. The security guards exchange uncertain looks. One of them straightens and steps back from Abena, his hand dropping from the radio on his shoulder. The other quietly mutters, Meh, I think we owe you an apology. Abena nods once, her tone even. You don't owe me an apology. You owe yourselves awareness. She turns back toward Coleman, whose skin has gone pale beneath the fluorescent lights. His mouth opens, then closes again. Every instinct to argue is drowned by the reality staring back at him from her tablet screen. The chat comments surge again, some angry, some awed. This woman just redefined grace. He's not talking big now. They're watching history unravel live. Clara steps forward hesitantly, clutching a tissue in both hands. Ms. Morrison, I swear I didn't know. I tried to stop him, I did. Abena's eyes soften. I know. Layla places a hand on Clara's shoulder. And the world knows now too. The cameras keep rolling. Coleman's breathing becomes audible over the quiet murmur of the crowd. His once gleaming confidence now drips away like wax from a dying candle. Abena looks at him one last time before turning her attention to the nearest phone camera. Her voice is calm, her diction crisp, every syllable measured for those watching thousands of miles away. This is not just about me, she says. This is about what happens when prejudice feels entitled to power. When people believe respect must be earned through appearance or accent. When arrogance disguises itself as professionalism. The crowd listens. The phones record. The words spread. #RespectFirst begins trending within seconds. Coleman finally breaks the silence, voice trembling. I didn't know who you were. Abena tilts her head slightly. And if I weren't your boss, would that make what you did acceptable? He stammers, searching for a lifeline in words that no longer matter. It's policy. I was protecting the institution. Her gaze hardens. You were protecting your prejudice. He takes a small step back, eyes darting toward the cameras, desperate to reclaim authority. You can't humiliate me like this. Abena's tone never rises. I'm not humiliating you, Richard. You did that yourself. I'm just ensuring there's a record of it. The crowd murmurs again. Someone near the back says quietly, "That's justice." Coleman's assistant wipes her eyes. "Richard, please stop. Just stop talking." But he can't. His pride clings to denial like a drowning man to driftwood. "You set this up, didn't you? You came here to make me look bad." Abena's reply is gentle, almost pitying. "You made yourself look bad. I only gave you the space to do it." The tension hangs like mist, thick, slow, inevitable. Outside, sirens wail faintly in the distance, growing closer. The crowd parts instinctively, as if expecting law enforcement to arrive. Abena, however, doesn't flinch. Her smartwatch pings once more. Board session resumed, 2 p.m. She ignores it, eyes locked on Coleman. "Mr. Coleman," she says softly, "you will remain branch manager for the next 10 minutes, long enough for me to decide whether you deserve that title any longer." He swallows hard, his arrogance finally collapsing into silence. Abena's gaze sweeps across the crowd, the customers, the employees, the trembling assistant, the guards, the cameras, all witnesses to the quiet dismantling of discrimination. Then she looks back to the phone camera nearest her and delivers the line that will replay across every social platform for days. "We will now discuss your future, publicly." Her words hang in the air, calm and unshakable, before the scene fades into the rising sound of the live stream notifications exploding in real time. The lobby feels less like a bank and more like a courtroom. The smell of burnt paper still lingers, a ghost of Coleman's arrogance clinging to the air. The crowd stands in a half circle, their phones lifted, their eyes fixed on Abena Morrison, the woman who turned humiliation into reckoning. She stands in the center of it all, tablet in hand, calm as a judge preparing to deliver a verdict. Behind her, the digital clock blinks 2:02 p.m. The live stream counter explodes past 5,000 viewers and continues climbing. The nation, it seems, has stopped to watch. Coleman stands stiff, face pale and clammy, his tie askew. His earlier confidence has curdled into silence. Clara hovers nearby, trying not to cry again. The security guards have taken several steps back, unsure whether to salute or disappear. Abena exhales slowly, steady as ever. Her voice, when it comes, cuts through the room with quiet precision. "Since this incident has already gone public," she says, "we'll continue it that way. Consider this an open disciplinary meeting." A ripple of nervous laughter moves through the crowd, uncertain and cautious. Abena doesn't smile. She sets her tablet on the counter, connecting it to the branch's display screen. The bank's own logo appears, followed by a slide titled "Regulatory Compliance and Accountability." Coleman blinks. "What are you doing?" "Educating," Abena replies simply. She taps a button, and the next slide appears, lines of text, crisp and formal. Federal Banking Act, Section 441. Destruction or alteration of a negotiable financial instrument constitutes a felony offense. Another slide follows. Bank Employee Code of Conduct, Section 7.2. Employees must treat all clients with equal respect and refrain from discriminatory behavior, whether overt or implied. Then another. Ethics Clause, Northern First Bank, 2022 revision. All staff shall uphold dignity, inclusion, and professionalism as core tenets of service. Abena looks up from the screen. "Mr. Coleman, how many of these did you just violate?" Coleman stares, his jaw working but no sound emerging. Abena doesn't wait. "You destroyed a financial instrument without verification, in violation of federal law. You defamed a customer publicly, in violation of company ethics. And you live-streamed it, broadcasting corporate negligence to thousands. Do you understand the weight of what you've done?" Coleman's voice cracks. "I made a mistake." "No," Abena says softly, "you made a choice. The live stream feed fills with comments. She's quoting the law. This woman is brilliant. He's finished for real now. Somewhere in the crowd, someone starts quietly clapping, then stops, unsure if it's appropriate. Abena continues. Now, Mr. Coleman, I believe in accountability. But I also believe in transformation. So you have two options. She swipes the tablet again, and two bold words appear on the display. Option 1. Public apology, demotion, financial reimbursement, community service. Option 2. Immediate termination and federal prosecution for destruction of financial property. A murmur sweeps the room. Coleman's atoms apple bobs visibly as he swallows. Abena keeps her tone even. Option 1 allows you to keep your employment in a lesser capacity and begin restitution. Option 2, she lets the silence stretch. Well, option 2 speaks for itself. He looks at her, his voice breaking. Please. I didn't know who you were. Abena's gaze sharpens. And if I weren't your employer? Would you still think burning a check was acceptable? He stammers. I was protecting the bank. Abena gestures toward the ashes on the marble floor. By destroying its assets? You didn't protect the bank, Mr. Coleman. You embarrassed it. He lowers his head. The crowd watches, unblinking. Layla, standing just behind Abena, glances at her tablet. Madam Chair, she says quietly, the live stream just passed 7,000 viewers. CBC and Global News are mirroring it. Abena nods once. Good. Transparency is the best disinfectant. She turns back to Coleman. Now, I'll ask you again, which option will you choose? Coleman's voice comes out barely above a whisper. Option 1. Say it clearly. He swallows hard, voice trembling. Option 1. I'll take option 1. Then start with step 1, Abena says. Apologize. Not to me, but to everyone who watched you burn decency for applause. Coleman's throat tightens. His gaze darts to the crowd, then the cameras. The same devices that once made him feel powerful now hold him captive. He takes a breath that sounds like defeat. I want to apologize, he says, voice cracking. To Ms. Morrison, to everyone watching. I was wrong. His eyes glisten. I acted out of arrogance and ignorance. I let my assumptions speak louder than my reason. A hush falls again. Even the live stream viewers seem to pause, the comments slow. Abena watches him quietly. When she finally speaks, her tone softens, but her words carry more weight than before. Respect, she says, begins where arrogance ends. Coleman nods weakly, unable to look her in the eye. Abena steps closer to the counter and turns the tablet toward Layla. Document the apology and record the disciplinary terms. Layla nods. Yes, Madam Chair. Abena continues, addressing both the crowd and the cameras. Effective immediately, Richard Coleman will be demoted to assistant manager, placed under probation, and required to reimburse the cost of the destroyed financial instrument. Additionally, he will complete 300 hours of community service through the Jamaican Canadian Association's financial literacy program. The crowd murmurs approval. Someone whispers, "That's justice done right." Coleman rubs his face with both hands, shoulders shaking. "Thank you," he mutters hoarsely. "Thank you for not." Abena interrupts softly. "Don't thank me. Earn it." She steps away, lifting her purse from the counter. Her poise doesn't waver, even as she feels the full weight of what has just unfolded. Behind her, Clara opens a drawer, pulls out a notepad, and begins writing notes, her hands trembling but purposeful. Abena notices. "Ms. Hughes," Abena says gently, "please begin drafting a policy reform memo. Title it Respect First Initiative. I want it circulated to all regional branches within 48 hours. Clara blinks, startled. Me? Yes, you, Abena replies. You noticed the wrong and questioned it. That's what leadership looks like. A few people clap softly. Layla smiles faintly. The live stream comments scroll faster again. This woman is rewriting corporate accountability in real time. She handled it with more grace than anyone I've seen. #RespectFirst is trending. Coleman wipes his eyes, shame heavy in his posture. Abena looks at him one last time. You've learned today that integrity cannot be burned, Mr. Coleman. It's either lived or it's lost. She turns toward the crowd, voice steady, resolute. This branch, like this country, will move forward with respect. Because when prejudice burns a check, empathy rebuilds the bank. For a moment, no one moves. Then, as if on cue, the customers begin to applaud, quietly at first, then louder, their hands echoing against the marble and glass. Abena doesn't bask in it. She simply nods, takes her tablet, and walks toward the exit. Behind her, Coleman remains motionless, a man newly aware of the fire he lit and the world that watched him burn. The cameras follow Abena until the glass doors close behind her. The reflection of the bank's logo glints faintly on the door as it swings shut, merging with her calm silhouette. Inside, Clara finishes writing the heading at the top of the notepad. Respect First, Draft 1. The city's skyline glitters outside the boardroom windows, glass towers catching the winter sun, each pane reflecting something different yet part of the same light. Inside, the atmosphere hums with quiet anticipation. Executives line the long polished table, tablets ready, voices low. At the head of the room sits Abena Morrison, composed and radiant in a cobalt blue suit. Her presence alone silences the low chatter. The woman who once stood quietly in a bank lobby as her check was burned now commands the attention of an empire. She touches the small lapel pin over her heart, silver, engraved with the initials RF. It's more than jewelry. It's the emblem of what she's about to announce. Good morning, she begins, her voice calm but magnetic. Let's get started. A screen behind her lights up with the title slide, The Respect First Initiative, Rebuilding Trust, Restoring Dignity. She lets the words linger, then continues, A week ago, Northern First Bank made national headlines for all the wrong reasons. A manager acted on bias instead of evidence. A crowd chose laughter over decency. And yet, within that chaos, we found clarity. She looks around the table, direct, unflinching. That clarity is this: respect must no longer be an expectation. It must be a system. The presentation slides forward. Respect First, she explains, is more than a policy. It's a promise woven into every function of the bank. Slide 1. Bias monitoring systems. Every branch will now use anonymous digital feedback portals, monitored by AI analytics to detect discriminatory behavior in real time. Complaints will no longer vanish into bureaucratic silence. They will be reviewed by an independent ethics board. Slide 2. Diversity and cultural audits. Quarterly evaluations will assess how fairly customers and employees are treated across demographics. Branch performance will now include an equity index, alongside financial metrics. Slide 3. Cultural competency workshops. Every employee, from interns to executives, will undergo empathy-based training, designed in partnership with social justice educators and cultural consultants. Slide 4. Community partnerships. Northern First Bank will formally partner with immigrant and Caribbean community centers to rebuild trust. Financial literacy, small business funding, and mentorship programs will be launched across Toronto, Scarborough, and Brampton. Abena pauses after each slide, allowing the meaning to sink in. Her voice is measured, neither boastful nor pleading, simply sure. We can't erase the ashes of prejudice, she says quietly, but we can plant seeds in their place. The executives nod, some solemnly, others in visible admiration. Clara Hughes, once the uneasy assistant manager in that marble lobby, sits near the end of the table, now appointed as head of community integrity and outreach. She looks both proud and humbled. Abena turns to her. Clara, the first branch audit begins next week. I trust your eye for sincerity more than most. Clara nods quickly, emotion flickering in her eyes. Thank you, Ms. Morrison. I won't let you down. Layla, seated beside Abena, begins distributing printed versions of the Respect First framework. Every department head will sign this by end of day. We launch officially on Monday. A low murmur of approval travels through the room. Meanwhile, across the city, Richard Coleman stands in his new office, a smaller, windowless space on the bank's lower floor. The title plaque on his desk reads Assistant Manager, Customer Relations. It's a demotion he accepted in shame but now shoulders in penance. For the first time, his schedule includes community service hours and mentorship meetings with immigrant financial literacy programs. He arrives early, greets each visitor politely, and listens, really listens. The arrogance that once wrapped around his words like armor is gone, replaced by quiet humility. Sometimes, he catches customers glancing at him as if recognizing him from that viral video. When it happens, he doesn't flinch. He simply says, "That was me. And I'm still learning." Across social media, his transformation becomes a subplot to the larger story. CBC headline, Bank Manager Redeems Himself Under CEO's Restorative Justice Plan. Toronto Star, CEO Turns Humiliation into Reform. Globe and Mail editorial, Respect First initiative could redefine corporate ethics. In the week following the rollout, Abena is interviewed by nearly every major network. On camera, she sits with the same composure she carried in that lobby, hands folded, voice even, eyes unwavering. When asked by a reporter from Global News why she didn't simply fire Coleman, she answers with the clarity of conviction. Justice without empathy builds walls. Justice with empathy builds bridges. I wanted him to understand the harm he caused, not just pay for it. Accountability is most powerful when it creates change. Her words trend instantly. #RespectFirst climbs across social platforms, shared alongside clips of her quiet defiance in that bank lobby. Later that evening, the offices are quiet. The boardroom is empty except for Abena and Layla. The city glows below them, lights scattered like the stars they both grew up watching from warmer shores. Layla sets down a mug of peppermint tea in front of Abena. "You did it," she says softly. "You turned the worst day of your life into a national movement." Abena smiles faintly, gazing out at the skyline. Maybe not a movement, just a reminder. Layla tilts her head. A reminder of what? That leadership isn't about power, it's about presence, Abena replies. And dignity is not something given. It's something we choose to keep even when someone tries to burn it. Layla nods slowly. And Coleman? Abena's expression softens. He's learning. That's all I ever wanted, for him to learn. They sit in silence for a moment, the hum of the city below them like a lullaby. Abena finally leans back, a faint smile ghosting her lips. "You know, my grandmother used to say, when you fight fire with fire, you just make more smoke. But when you use water, water cleans, cools, and grows." Layla smiles. Water wins in the end. Abena chuckles quietly. Exactly. By Friday, national media outlets are running deep features on Northern First Bank's transformation. A CNN headline reads, "From check burning to cultural reform, how a Jamaican CEO redefined corporate ethics." Financial analysts praise the initiative's transparency, while sociologists cite it as a case study in restorative leadership. A trending post reads, This is how you lead, with grace that doesn't let injustice go unchallenged. Even rival banks begin to take notice, sending requests for consultation. Layla brings a stack of inquiries into Abena's office. "You're officially a model for crisis leadership now," she teases. Abena smiles lightly. "I didn't set out to be one. I just wanted the next woman who walks into a bank with an accent to be treated like she belongs there." That afternoon, Abena walks through the headquarters lobby. The marble gleams, polished to perfection. A few employees glance up from their stations, offering respectful nods. Some smile shyly. She pauses near the main wall where a new exhibit is being assembled behind a velvet rope. The curator from the museum division adjusts the lighting, revealing a glass case waiting to be filled. Inside, a small plaque already glints under the lights. "The price of prejudice, a check burned, a system rebuilt." It's not ready yet. The official unveiling is scheduled for next week. But even in its emptiness, the display carries weight. Abena stands there quietly, hands clasped. Layla approaches from behind. "They'll have the ashes transferred tomorrow," she says softly. "Everything will be ready." Abena nods. "But let it stand as a reminder, not of shame, but of change." They linger in silence, the hum of the building filling the space around them. Then Abena turns, her gaze sweeping across the bustling lobby. "Let's get ready," she says. "Next week isn't about me. It's about everyone who's ever been told their worth could burn." Layla smiles. "And everyone who'll learn it can't." As they walk toward the elevators, the light from the glass case reflects across the floor, golden, steady, unflinching. The first monument to respect first glows quietly behind them, proof that sometimes the smallest ember of dignity can ignite a revolution. Snow flurries drift past the glass facade of Northern First Bank, melting into the spring air before they touch the ground. The lobby glows with soft golden light, transformed from the site of humiliation into one of history. Rows of chairs fill the marble floor, cameras line the back wall, and every major news outlet has gathered for what they call a moment of symbolic reckoning. At the center of the lobby, beneath a new skylight, stands a glass display case. Inside, resting on a white velvet cloth, is a small mound of preserved ashes, the remains of the check that started it all. A brass plaque gleams beneath the display. "The price of prejudice, a check burned, a system rebuilt." Behind the plaque, a soft spotlight illuminates a single quote etched into the wall. "They burned a check but couldn't burn worth." Abena Morrison. The audience gathers quietly, bank executives, employees, community leaders, and students flown in from universities across North America. There's a palpable reverence in the air, the kind reserved for places that witnessed both shame and transformation. At precisely 11 a.m., the doors open. Abena Morrison steps into the lobby. She moves with the same quiet grace that once silenced this very room, her tailored cream suit perfectly pressed, her expression serene. 6 months have passed since the viral incident that redefined corporate accountability. 6 months since a single act of ignorance forced a global conversation on bias and dignity. The crowd rises. Applause begins, not loud or frantic, but respectful, rhythmic, sincere. Abena approaches the podium set just beside the display. Behind her, the glass doors reflect the world outside, reporters, passers-by, and live stream viewers from across continents. 15 million people are watching online, the counter ticking upward as if time itself were recording her legacy. Layla Pierre, standing discreetly to the side, adjusts the microphone. Beside her, Richard Coleman, now modestly dressed in a gray suit without a tie, arranges the last set of programs on the guest tables. He moves quietly, deliberately, his expression humble. No cameras point at him, but those who notice can't help but recognize the arc of his story. Abena begins her speech. Her voice, calm and melodic, fills the room. 6 months ago, this space was filled with smoke. Today, it's filled with light. She pauses, glancing toward the glass display. That fire was meant to destroy. But it revealed something instead, the truth about who we are when no one is watching, and who we become when the whole world sees. The audience listens in stillness. Cameras flash, capturing the moment she turns her gaze toward the employees seated in the front rows. Dignity, she continues, isn't something that can be granted by another person. It is inherent. It's not printed on a check or proven by a suit or an accent. It's lived, every day, in how we treat each other. Her words echo across the marble, the same space that once held laughter at her expense. Now, it holds accountability. Leadership, she says, isn't measured by power, it's measured by restraint. When that check burned, I had a choice, to burn back or to build forward. I chose to build. The crowd murmurs in agreement, many wiping their eyes. Behind her, the large screen begins displaying a montage, images from the Respect First initiative, smiling employees at training sessions, bank branches hosting community events, partnerships with immigrant centers. Each photo tells a story of change born from that day. Abena nods toward the display. Respect First began as a response to a single moment of injustice. Today, it's a global movement. Banks across Canada have adopted its framework. Branches in Jamaica, London, and New York are now implementing it. And our partners in Ghana, India, and Trinidad have pledged to do the same. The screen switches to footage of classrooms at Harvard Business School and UWI-Mona, students analyzing case studies titled Fireproof Worth, the Abena Morrison case. A soft laugh ripples through the crowd as Abena adds, "Apparently, I've become homework." The laughter fades into applause. Abena's tone deepens, more personal now. But this movement isn't about one person or one company. It's about every voice that has ever been dismissed, every accent ever mocked, every assumption that went unchallenged. It's about making sure no one else has to stand in the ashes of prejudice to prove their worth. She glances at Coleman, who stands near the back, head bowed. Their eyes meet for just a moment. He nods once, a silent acknowledgement of both remorse and gratitude. Abena looks back to the audience. And to those who ask why I didn't choose revenge, the answer is simple. Justice without empathy builds walls. Justice with empathy builds bridges. The words linger. They are not just heard, they are absorbed. Layla watches from the sidelines, pride glimmering in her eyes. Clara Hughes, now leading the bank's Community Integrity Division, sits in the front row, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Abena continues, her voice soft but unwavering. The ashes in that display are not a symbol of destruction. They are a memorial of transformation. Proof that something burned can still become something beautiful. The camera pans over the crowd, employees clasping hands, community members nodding, journalists typing furiously. #RespectFirst trends again within minutes. After the speech, Abena steps aside as the ribbon around the glass case is cut. The crowd bursts into applause. A light inside the display flickers to life, casting a soft glow over the ashes. Coleman approaches quietly, his posture modest. He helps guide visitors toward the exhibit, handing out small booklets titled, The Cost of Assumptions. His role now is not managerial, it's educational. A reporter spots him and calls out, "Mr. Coleman, do you have anything you'd like to say?" He pauses, looks toward Abena, who gives a slight nod. Facing the microphone, he speaks slowly, carefully. 6 months ago, I thought I was protecting a bank. What I've learned is that you can't protect an institution if you've already damaged its humanity. I burned a check. I almost burned my integrity. Ms. Morrison gave me a chance to rebuild both. The crowd falls silent. His humility, unforced and genuine, carries more power than any apology could. He steps back, hands folded, as Abena approaches him. "Thank you, Mr. Coleman," she says softly, shaking his hand. Respect begins where arrogance ends. He smiles faintly. And change begins where humility grows. The ceremony concludes with a final photo session. The plaque gleams, the glass catches light like a prism, and the ashes shimmer faintly under the spotlights, symbols of what happens when destruction meets grace. As the crowd disperses, reporters rush to publish headlines. They burned a check but couldn't burn worth. From fire to foundation, how one CEO changed banking culture forever. Respect first goes global. Abena remains by the exhibit long after most people have left. The lobby is quieter now, filled only with the faint hum of lights and the echo of her grandmother's voice in her mind. Never answer fire with fire, child. Water wins in the end. Layla joins her, a steaming cup of tea in hand. "You've done it," she says softly. Abena shakes her head. "No, we've just begun." They both look at the ashes, then at their reflections in the glass. Two women, one who once faced fire, the other who carried the water beside her. Outside, the snow has stopped. The sunlight catches the building, turning the glass facade into a mirror for the city to see itself, flawed, learning, but capable of change. Abena turns to leave, pausing only once more to look back at the memorial. Her voice is barely a whisper, but it carries through the still air. "They burned a check," she says, "but they couldn't burn worth." The doors close behind her, leaving the ashes bathed in light, a silent testament to the power of dignity and the flame that only truth can withstand. The community center sits tucked between a laundromat and a Caribbean bakery, its brick walls painted the soft yellow of morning light. Inside, the hum of conversation fills the air, families discussing savings plans, students opening first accounts, newcomers asking about credit. The scent of cocoa bread and brewed coffee drifts faintly from the adjoining cafe, grounding the place in comfort and welcome. At the far corner of the room, a man in a modest gray suit leans over a desk, explaining the terms of a small business loan to a couple holding hands. His voice is calm, deliberate, and patient. Richard Coleman. His hair is shorter now, flecked with early gray. Gone is the arrogance that once strutted across marble floors. What remains is quiet purpose. Across the room, unseen by him, Abena Morrison stands near a notice board filled with flyers about community programs. She's dressed casually today, navy blouse, tan slacks, no jewelry except her wedding band and smartwatch. She watches not to evaluate, but to witness. "Now," Coleman says gently, turning the screen toward his clients, a Jamaican couple in their 30s, with two young kids playing quietly beside them. This is a microloan designed for startup ventures. It's low interest, flexible repayment. But the best part, he smiles, is that it's built on trust. Everyone deserves to be seen as credible until proven otherwise. The woman nods, her accent carrying a familiar rhythm. "That's a good thing, sir. Some places don't see people like us that way." Coleman's smile falters for a moment, then steadies. "They should. I learned that the hard way." Abena's lips curve softly. A year ago, those words would have been unimaginable from him. The husband shakes Coleman's hand, gratitude clear in his eyes. "Thank you, boss. You make us feel seen." "I'm not the boss," Coleman replies, chuckling lightly. "I'm just someone who learned what respect really costs." The couple leaves with their approval papers in hand. Coleman exhales and glances around the center, clearly proud of what he's helping build. Posters on the wall read, "Respect first, financial literacy for everyone. Diversity builds trust. Fireproof Worth, a legacy initiative. Abena lingers by the door as Coleman begins helping a young refugee student open her first savings account. He explains every step with patience, letting her ask questions, smiling when she fumbles her English. No camera rolls. No audience cheers. But this quiet redemption, is the kind that endures. Layla enters the center a few minutes later, carrying a folder of reports. "He's changed," she murmurs beside Abena. "Yes," Abena replies softly. "And not because he had to, but because he chose to." They step outside into the crisp spring air. Across the street, the bakery's sign flickers, "Island flavors, taste of home." The scent of fried plantain mingles with the breeze. Back at Morrison Global Headquarters, the world has shifted. On the top floor, Abena's office overlooks Toronto's skyline, sunlight reflecting off the CN Tower, streetcars gliding below. On her glass desk lies a report stamped with the company crest. Global Impact Summary, Respect First Initiative, Year 1. Minority customer satisfaction up 46%. Complaints of discriminatory behavior down 82%. 73 international banks adopting the policy framework. Recognition by the UN for corporate leadership in ethical reform. Abena scans the numbers but smiles most at the final line, handwritten in blue ink by Clara Hughes. "We didn't just change policy, we changed people." Layla enters with 2 mugs of tea. "They want you in 10 minutes for your keynote." Abena nods. "Are the slides ready?" "Yes." Title slide reads, "Fireproof Worth." "Just like you wanted." Later that afternoon, the ballroom at the Toronto Convention Centre gleams with crystal lights. The annual Global Ethics Summit buzzes with chatter. Executives, scholars, and journalists gathered to hear the woman who turned scandal into social reform. Abena steps onto the stage to thunderous applause. The massive screen behind her lights up with the title, "Fireproof Worth, Turning Prejudice into Policy and Policy into Progress." She pauses before speaking, letting silence claim the room. Then, with her signature calm, she begins. "1 year ago, a man burned a check to prove a point. Today, that same man helps others build their futures. That's the power of change, when fire teaches us, not destroys us." She tells the story without bitterness. She speaks of humility, empathy, and the shared responsibility to rebuild trust in systems that once failed so many. "Our goal was never revenge," she says. "It was recognition. Because worth, true worth, isn't printed, stamped, or signed. It's lived." Her grandmother's voice echoes in her memory. "Never answer fire with fire, child. Water wins in the end." She smiles as she repeats the line aloud to the audience. "My grandmother taught me that when I was a girl in Montego Bay. I didn't understand it then. But today I do. We cannot fight prejudice with more fire. Only with water, calm, steady, cleansing truth." The crowd rises to their feet in applause. The speech will later be quoted in The Economist, taught at Harvard, and shared millions of times online. But for Abena, the moment is simpler. It's closure. That evening, after the applause fades and the crowd disperses, Abena walks alone through the quiet streets toward the Northern First Bank lobby. The building gleams under city lights, the marble polished to perfection. Inside, the lobby is empty except for the night guard and the soft hum of air conditioning. The memorial still stands in its glass case, the ashes preserved, eternal. The brass plaque shines. The price of prejudice, a check burned, a system rebuilt. She walks closer, fingertips brushing the cool surface of the glass. Her reflection merges with the ashes inside, past and present coexisting. Her smartwatch buzzes softly, a calendar reminder, Meeting, community outreach, Coleman, 10 a.m. tomorrow. She smiles faintly. A cleaning staff member nearby pauses, watching her respectfully. Ms. Morrison, he says softly, that day changed a lot of us. Abena turns, her voice gentle. That's what truth does. It changes those willing to listen. She faces the memorial again. The light catches on the swirling particles of ash, giving them an almost golden hue. For a moment, it looks as though the fire that once consumed them is reborn, not as destruction, but illumination. Layla's words from months ago echo in her mind, "You've done it." And her own reply, truer now than ever, "No. We've just begun." She kneels slightly, adjusting the edge of the brass plaque as if tending to something sacred. Then, in a voice just above a whisper, she says the words that began the movement and will define it for generations. "You can burn a check," she murmurs, "but you can't burn dignity." She straightens, takes one last look, and turns toward the doors. As she steps outside, the city greets her with a soft breeze, the hum of traffic, the rhythm of life continuing, strong, steady, resilient. Above the bank, the building's illuminated sign glows in soft blue light. Northern First Bank, home of the Respect First initiative. The camera of memory lingers as Abena walks away, her silhouette framed by the reflection of the memorial through the glass. The ashes shimmer faintly in the background, a reminder of where the fire once lived, and proof of what remains when it's gone. Worth, dignity, legacy.
Thank you so much for staying with me till the end of today's story. I truly appreciate your time and presence here. It means more than you know. If there's one lesson to carry from Abena Morrison's story, it's this. Dignity cannot be burned, and respect must never depend on appearances. No matter how cruel the world can be, grace, patience, and truth will always speak louder than hate. Abena's calm didn't make her weak. It made her powerful. She showed us that revenge may end a moment, but respect and education can change generations. If you enjoyed this story, please support this channel by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with your friends, family, or anyone who needs a reminder that integrity and empathy still matter. Your support helps me continue to bring you more powerful, true-to-life stories like this one. I'll be posting another story tomorrow, and I promise you won't want to miss it. But before you go, make sure to check out the previous video now showing on your screen. It's another incredible story about courage, truth, and transformation. Until next time, remember, you can burn a check, but you can't burn worth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.